Okay, I wanted that video to be that up close and personal, but I didn't want it to be that up close and personal. So let's get into how I got to this point. Like, how did I get to the point where I'm going to ayahuasca ceremonies, I'm doing EMDR? Like, how did I get to this point? So I believe that after a handful of ceremonies, I can see that surrendering is really a feeling that you have to embody. So when I say embody, I mean that you actually have to feel it. You have to actually experience your body surrendering. So a lot of times we're not able to do this in real time. Like, we're not able to just figure out that our bodies are just surrendering and our body is just letting go. A lot of the times we have so much resistance. Even when you have resistance, some people don't know that their body is resisting. And I find that in that resistance, if you can find that resistance to be that thing that is, you have to accept that your body is resisting this because it thinks that it's dangerous, right? Your body is resisting God because it thinks that God is going to harm you. And for some people who grew up in the church and the church was a very harmful place for them, they may have this flawed embodied experience with God, that he's filled with judgment, that people will have, there's so much shame around God and just Jesus Christ in general. And I know that for me, I grew up literally taking the Bible literally. Like, everything that was in the Bible, like, in my mind, like, I would take it literally. And I feel like that was hurtful to an extent, because it made me not run to God and run to the Bible whenever I needed something. I mean, yes, I prayed, I grew up in a church, but I was still looking for a deeper meaning or deeper sense of meaning in life, because what I had in front of me didn't feel loving. I would talk about certain things online, and a whole bunch of online Christians under my comments, and that made me not want to seek out God even more, because I felt like all these people who were Christians thought that they were perfect. And I know that once you become entrenched in really embodying what God's love is, you don't even see those people anymore. What you see is you experiencing life, experiencing challenges, your best friend, with your homeboy, right? And I look at it now that, like, as I'm going through anything in life, I saw that in these ayahuasca ceremonies. First of all, let me just say that, like, it's not that I don't endorse these. It's not that I don't think that ayahuasca or plant medicine is helpful, because it is. And, I can talk about the Harvard studies and, all the stuff it talks about psychedelics to cure depression, psychedelics helping to cure depression and anxiety and PTSD. Like, that research is there. We can't refute that research. And I also believe that if you take these substances and you're not inviting a higher meaning or purpose for these substances, you can get lost in opening up a portal that the devil can enter through. And as dramatic as some people be like, "Well, that's so dramatic," it's true. I believe that as I sat through these ceremonies, so let's talk about each ceremony. Many people are inevitable, many people are dissociated and they don't know it, right? You see them, some people, you just like, they're always calm, right? Or some people are always very logical. And I'm not saying that everybody is like emotional. I'm just saying that some people really just can't feel, no matter what. They feel numb all the time. They feel disconnected from the world. They're always in their head. And as much as we know the Bible and people talk about the Bible, if you can't feel God's love, the love that you give is superficial. And here's the truth about it. This is something that's on a soul level. So there are many of us that, like, yes, God has done things for us, right? God has helped us get a new job. God has helped us, difficult child that was going wayward. Like, God has helped us, our partner and our mate. And these are things that we pay rigorously for, and God does these things for us. And as God does these things for us, the idea is that we can use these things as a resource whenever we become anxious again in the future, for whenever we become depressed in the future. But when your nervous system is not regulated, or you're living in a very frozen aspect of your system, right? You're in a functional freeze. And then whenever you go through difficult challenges, you can't just rely on God. you know, it's hard for you to just surrender to God because you haven't truly been able to embody that ability to feel God's love and presence whenever you're going through something challenging. Okay, so how do we resource ourselves? Okay, the way you resource yourself is by doing things to release that stuck energy that occurred, probably sometimes through stress when you were a child. Whenever we're in our dysregulated, when our nervous system is dysregulated, it's usually really difficult to see truth, to see reality for what it is, because we're living in our pain. And that's why some people, when they go through grief or when they go through something challenging, can really shake them up so bad that, like, you know, it really takes them down like this really dark hole. And you can prevent yourself from really getting deeper into this hole by working on learning how to shift easily, quickly through emotions. The Bible also sometimes it talks about, like, we can't rely on feelings. And as true as that is, right, before you get to the point where you can't rely on your feelings, you have to be able to feel first. Okay? If you can't rely on your feelings when it comes to your walk with Christ, absolutely, right? Because it's a commitment and it's an embodied commitment. But you have to acknowledge the feeling. Otherwise, you get stuck in resisting the fact that you've already made this commitment. You can't move into change until you can feel and accept, right? That's sometimes that has to do with their sin too. Like, I remember that, like, I was in a lot of denial about some of the things that I had done in the past, and I feel like until I confessed that, and when I say confess that, I mean like really went into my shadow. A lot of the times we're scared to go into the shadow. These are the shadows, the things that you feel like people are not going to love, people are not going to accept, but God has already forgiven you for those things, right? And there's a lot of freedom once you finally accept these things, like accept your shortcomings, accept that, you know, you're not the best, you know, speaker, accept that, you know, you're not the best, you know, worker, or, you know, you're not even the best, you know, you're not the best artist, right? But you accept that God has empowered you no matter what, with his love, with his care, with his supervision, that even though you're not the best, that role that he has given you is to fulfill his promise in you. So that doesn't matter if you're the best or not. Okay, it is part of the role that he has fulfilled in you. And a lot of the times our gifts is not for us, for other people. And so especially the ones that we think are not good enough. So when we think about being disassociated, each ceremony for me, I felt like made me more alive, right? I felt like God, you know, I had a pastor from Fearless Church. I went to Fearless Church in LA, and he used to say, God doesn't make whatever. He always says, like, God makes dead people alive. Like, God turns the dead into alive. Like, and I forget, like, what he always says, but he used to say that, like, I feel like I was living my life and I was dead. I was numb. I was frozen. I was going through the motions. I was so disconnected. And he would say that God makes dead people live. God makes you alive. And in the moment, I used to think, like, why is he saying that? I actually saying that, but now I really see that I was so dead, like, you know. And one of the things that I've been really seeing, even through these ceremonies that I went through, and again, I'm still getting these downloads, but you are fighting demons. And it's so interesting because everyone's like, what? That sounds really crazy. But when I say you're fighting demons, like, for example, even when God does certain things for us, right, and we're so grateful, but when you are in these ceremonies, you literally can see these demons, their faces, almost some of them look like serpent-like, and they're just laughing at you, and they're just mocking you at every attempt that you're trying to do things. As you're trying to focus on certain things, these demons are just laughing at you. And when you're in that moment, you have no other choice but to surrender. And, you know, when I'm talking about you have no other choice, it's like you notice how weak you are. You notice how you cannot fight in this moment. And you notice that you have to kneel and surrender. God, come and help me fight this battle. And in that moment, you can kind of see a light. You can kind of see by that surrender that it is not through your own strength where these demons flee. It is through God's strength where I develop a strength to, like, you know, attack these demons or watch these demons dissipate. And I remember, like, having one of the tails of the demons and just, like, keeping it next to me, almost as, like, a reminder that, like, God is going to do everything that he says he's going to do in your life once you surrender. And it's such a hard lesson, but I'm happy that it took all this for me to learn this lesson. Okay, in that moment too, like I felt like I knew that I knew that I didn't need, like this was by the last ceremony. I knew that I didn't need anything else. I knew in that last ceremony that I didn't need anything else. Okay, so in the first ceremony, that was the very first time I gained awareness of my trauma. So, I went through some abuse as a child that I totally forgot about, and that abuse caused me to disassociate. When I started thawing out my body and started moving into my window of tolerance and really starting to, gain really, really good awareness of my patterns and my triggers and all of these things, I believe that is when I started gaining more curiosity towards my experience. So awareness was the very first part for the journey. The second part, I believe, was the hardest part, which was the acceptance piece. And the acceptance takes a while because you can't change what you don't accept. A lot of people are stuck in the awareness, the change loop. The gap is in the middle is acceptance. Once we can accept the shadows and the triggers, accept the negative aspects that we see, our traumas, we can accept all of the emotions, accept all of these things to move into change. But acceptance is an embodied experience, right? So we cannot heal. You've heard this, you can't heal what you don't feel. And if you're disassociated, this is where it becomes a challenge, because you're going to start intellectualizing, start reading all the books like I did. I had a ton of books that I was reading and just getting more obsessed into why I couldn't feel this feeling that everyone would talk about. And the peace that came with God's love, I knew was like a piece of like, it doesn't matter, right? Like God has me, God has my back. I noticed that people who really, really love God are free. People who are pretending or to love God, their love, is not conditional. Their love is restrictive. Their love, the energy doesn't feel good. And I think that when you have this pure love of God, you have been able to feel and embody that love in real time. So let's talk about, the awareness, right? We got the awareness. And then remember, the second piece was that acceptance. So once you move into that acceptance, that ceremony with the acceptance was me really fighting battles and really crying and really, really, really surrendering to the fact that I really did not know what the hell I was doing. And as these demons were laughing at me, God came and he placed his hand on my shoulder and he said, everything's going to be okay. And it was like, in that moment, I felt this strong presence, like, wow, like, I don't know. I don't think I need anything else. And I remember feeling so confused. I took like a month off social media and I felt so confused about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it and what I needed to be doing. And I started seeing glimpses of me helping people to, be more visible. I started seeing glimpses of me preaching. I started seeing glimpses of me, and I would fight it. When I would see this, I would fight it. I would change. I would pivot. I went into this mode of like resisting everything that I was seeing. And then in the last ceremony is when I saw myself really trying to control everything in my life. And this was something that I saw that was starting to make me emotional. And so during the ceremony, I busted out crying because I was in this space looking for something that was already inside me. I could almost even hear everyone around me. I could hear them purging. I can hear like that last ceremony was a ceremony where I was so hypersensitive to everything that was going around me that it almost reminded me that I didn't need to be there anymore. It reminded me that like my journey was done. Like I had been in this space where I could surrender now. That if I could just listen to God and just let God take control, that he would give me the type of peace I was looking for. And immediately I had that feeling come over me. I purged. I kept purging and purging. And when I finished purging, I started dancing. I started celebrating. I started thanking God. And all of a sudden, when I sat back down, I had so many emotions and I was crying. And all of a sudden, there was this person next to me. I don't know who that person was, but he just put his hand again on my shoulder in real time and said, it's okay. And in that moment, I knew that I had finally reached a level of acceptance. And now I can move into change. And accountability is about, right this moment, doing what I need to do. to spread God's love and to understand how joyful I've been feeling since having this encounter. And I think many people ultimately are looking to have this encounter or looking to have this spiritual awakening. And if you are looking to have this encounter or spiritual awakening, I think that one of the best ways to get there is by truly understanding your purpose, your design, and understanding that you were created by someone who loves you so much. And it's almost really difficult to tap into that love when trauma is so heavy in our body, is so heavy in our generational bloodline. And so I feel like that's part of my purpose, is to really help people release this trauma in their body in the way of being, instead of just saying God, 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 Jesus, 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 Jesus. Jesus has brought you guys therapists, right? Brought you guys coaches, brought you guys medicine, brought you guys all these things, but ultimately they're not a substitute. They're not a substitute for him. They are a path to getting closer to him, to understanding him, to bringing more followers to him. That's something that I've learned. So I share my journey of how I found freedom in Jesus Christ, and I'll continue to share that and talk about how, again, EMDR and plant medicine has done that. I have made a commitment to myself that I don't believe that I will be holding plant medicine retreats anytime soon. I believe that the work with the medicine right now has come to an end. I don't know what the future is going to hold, but for right now, my work with the medicine has come to an end. I felt like I've sat with the medicine a handful of times now, and I feel like each time I sat with the medicine, it revealed a lot of truth to me. I felt like I needed to hear the truth. I needed to embody the truth. I needed to feel the truth. I know that even when I was reading and I was meditating, even before the last time, I'd done over 460 meditations, but this was the first time. That last ceremony was the first time I saw and experienced God in such a truthful way. And the ways in which he revealed himself to me was that I am his child. I am a child of God. And there's so much freedom in that information. There's so much freedom in that truth. And the truth that I have been searching for all this time was right in front of me. And, you know, there's a feeling that that comes over me when I think about trauma and how it blocks the truth. It blocks us from having choices. It blocks us from choosing God, and God gives us free will. I think that's what makes it so interesting, right? He gives us the free will, but if we are blocked through trauma, we don't feel like we can choose him. We don't feel the freedom to choosing him. So if you're watching and you're somebody that you've known me in the past, you know, some people may laugh, they might mock, they might say, what is she saying? You know, you might have all of these thoughts and opinions, but you know, you might even say you're teaching people how to do drugs. And this is the thing that I want to remind people of. The truth is, I no longer care about anybody's opinion of me when it relates to my purpose and my work with Jesus Christ. And as hard and challenging as it may be for people to accept what I do with my life, I understand that when you're living a life of meaning and purpose and truth, you don't need anybody else's love but God's love, because that love is the love that gives you peace. That is the only place you will find fulfillment. Yes, would it be great to have a community of support? Absolutely. And I do work hard to have and build a community for support. But I also know that even with that, without that support, I have to keep going. I have to keep talking about God's love in my life. And I want to really encourage people with this channel to continue to seek him and continue to find peace in that love. Okay? And so yeah, thank you so much. So the last video is going to be a video about a meditation or a devotion. So this is just going to be a structure of how I want to formulate my channel. So I'll probably do like 3 videos a week, and one of the videos is definitely going to be using like a meditation, because I told you guys I meditate every morning. And so I'm going to share one of my meditations with you guys and do an EMDR exercise with you guys. Okay, so stay tuned.